Hello everyone, welcome to another nighttime video with Narc Survivor. Just out here walking around the condo where I stay. It's relatively peaceful at night, so I thought I'd just come out here and do just a quick video for you, talking about how narcissists feel when you part ways. And that in itself, it's kind of like a red flag that you even have to think about that question. You even have to wonder, how do they feel when you part ways? Because they act like they've got it all together, as though there's no worries for them. They're not affected. It just doesn't even bother them. That is a red flag in itself, because of course anyone is going to be hurt when they're with someone and then they part ways. Of course it's going to affect them in some way. So the fact that they don't even reveal their emotions to you and you don't even know what's going on with them, it reveals that they're far more affected than you think. They are far more affected than they even want you to know. Because that's just it. I mean, the entire time, you were their source of supply. They relied on you for attention, validation, and control. That's what you provided to them. And while you were there for them, you made them feel good about themselves. You made them feel secure, as though they weren't missing or deficient in anything. And especially you. I mean, there's a reason why they picked you to be their source of supply rather than someone else. Because of these very specific qualities that you possess. You're empathetic. You're kind. You're accommodating. Just the way that you are so attentive and immersed in their reality, their experience, for whatever they want you to think, whatever they want you to do for them. You're just immersed in that. You're attentive. You're reactive and responsive. I think many of you underestimate just how rare those traits are. There's very few people in this world who are like that, who are highly sensitive to another person's perceptions and perspectives, to where you're able to bond with them. And in this one-sided bond, you're able to see things their way. You're able to be this extension of them. And if that wasn't enough, you may also be very physically attractive, successful, powerful, charismatic. All of these things combined, it's very difficult for them to break away. It's very difficult for them to forget about you. Because as I've said before, I mean, most people who are successful, attractive, they tend to be more narcissistic. Because they've got so many options, they've been involved with so many people, that by the time they get to someone that they want to be with, it's like they're so used to it already. They don't treat it as special. They're not going to be fully open and immersed and responsive to it in the way that you are with a narcissist. It just doesn't happen that way. You see, most successful and attractive people, they just don't really care. It just doesn't really mean anything to them. But the narcissist meant a lot to you. They were very special to you. You cared about them a lot. You valued them. Despite how you were also very attractive and successful yourself. You were also compassionate, empathetic. You were able to be there for them. To be who they needed you to be. And I can't stress enough just how rare these qualities are in the world today. For one thing, an empathetic person, I mean, empaths are just 1 to 2% of the population. And on top of that, you're also successful, physically attractive, charismatic. It's just extremely rare that they ever get to have a field day with someone like that. But they have someone who's attractive, successful, powerful, charismatic, and then also empathetic, and just all of these wonderful traits, compassionate, attentive. All of this in one. To be their little toy, their little plaything, that they can do whatever they want, whenever they want to. They're having a field day at the beginning. Of course, with time, they soon take it for granted. They become used to you, accustomed to you. They expect you to always be there, for that supply to always be available to them. But it's essentially like a household appliance, such as a fridge or a washing machine that you might take for granted. What happens when it suddenly stops working? Then you really begin to revalue it and remember how important that appliance is to you and why you got it in the first place. And you may be willing to pay a lot of money to get that thing fixed because it is that important to you. It's the same thing with you and the narcissist. I can't stress just how powerful these combination of traits and qualities are, combined with physical attractiveness, success, charisma. It's just so rare in the world today. I mean, most people who are successful, attractive, charismatic, they just haven't even got the time. They haven't even got the time to be there. But you were always there for the narcissist. When they said jump, you said how high. It's like they were your parent and you were their child. You made them your world. And that's what makes it so addictive for them. It's like you're always there whenever they need you. What they need, what makes them feel so good about themselves is always there when they need it. Because many of you weren't taught to have boundaries in childhood. You weren't taught about the separation. So they had you there as an object that was just there to serve them, an extension of themselves. Many of you are codependents, people pleasers. It's like their dream come true, their dream come to life. An extension of them that's there to help them, to make them feel good. It's just irreplaceable. You made them feel so safe and secure, emotionally stable. You regulated them. You made them feel in control, validated. Because you were always there to attend to them. So how do they feel when you part ways? They don't feel good at all. It's got to be a miserable experience for them. They may not admit that to you, but it is. Regardless of whether you reject them or they reject you. Typically, they will only reject you because they fear that you're going to reject them. Now, that's really the only reason why. Because think about it. They're never going to find anyone to replace you. They're never going to find anyone else on your level. They're never going to find anyone who makes them feel the way that you made them feel. to where you're so connected to them. It's almost like a soul tie, a spiritual connection. It's like you become a part of them. You're an extension of them. And we know narcissists feel inadequate deep down. They feel insecure. So what better than for them to have this extension of themselves? It's what they need. It's what they can't live without. They need to have an extension of themselves. And of course, that's very difficult for them to find because most people don't have that level of energy to keep that going, to be someone else's extension. They're not going to be willing to tolerate it. They may have boundaries. They may recognize the separation. Especially if they're successful, if they're attractive, because successful, attractive people, they tend to have very strong boundaries to get to that point. Attractive people, they tend to recognize their attractiveness. So for them to have you as their little puppet, they're pulling the strings on you. This attractive, successful, empathetic, compassionate, attentive person. It's just such a powerful experience for them. It's something that nothing else could ever replace. It's something they cannot live without. So even though they may have rejected you, it's because they fear you may have rejected them. They didn't reject you first. And many narcissists may just suppress how much they need you and how much you matter to them. As a result of their pride and ego, they don't want to give you that power over them because they want to have power over you so that they can control you and use you to meet their needs. So they'll just suppress their feelings and find a new source of supply. Even though it's not going to make them happy, it's not going to satisfy them. They were never really satisfied with you. They always wanted more power, more control. It was never enough because they're insatiable. But especially with the next person, it's going to be nothing compared to the level of power and control and just the micromanaging that they had over you, to the point where you were an extension of their minds, their bodies. You were an extension of them, which is their dream come true. It's everything they could ever have wanted. Because they've abandoned themselves. They have no self. So they need to use yourself to provide them with security, stability, wholeness, which of course is exactly what they do. But again, when you part ways, they're going to feel insecure. They're not going to be feeling good about themselves. They are going to be feeling like something is missing. And some narcissists, yes, they will try and regain that control because they're going to want it back, that supply. And they're going to keep coming back for as long as they can, and they're just never going to stop. They keep coming back to you, specifically to you, because they can't find anyone else to replace you. And there's likely never going to be anyone else who's on that level of success, power, attractiveness, status, who's also very loving, accommodating, empathetic, compassionate, attentive, responsive, reactive. There's just not going to be anyone else. Because there rarely is anyone who is doing well, they're successful, attractive, charismatic, and they're also very nice, compassionate, kind people. It just doesn't happen. We just don't see that in the world today. And it's what a lot of people want. It's what a lot of people dream of. So of course, once they found that in you, they really don't want to let it go. They become very jealous. They want to be your only source of influence. And any time that they see something else outside of them influencing you, controlling you, They really don't like it. They want to dominate it. They want to take over that source of influence and become that to you. They'll make it a part of their false character so that they can use it to manipulate and control you. Because they do not want anyone or anything taking you away from them, because they know they're not going to be able to replace you. They're never going to find such a potent source of supply ever again. And they know that. Many of you are codependents, people pleasers. Some of you may be obsessive compulsive, autistic. These kinds of traits that provide such a potent source of supply to them that they can never replace, that they can never find in anyone else, and especially after they've done all of the work to manipulate you and to tailor make you for the way that they specifically need you to respond. That makes them feel so good about themselves. It makes them feel superior. It makes them feel in control. Because every which way that you are responding now naturally, it's because they have rewired you to be that specific way. Because that's the supply that they need. That's what makes them feel good. But of course, many other people have boundaries. They recognize that separation. They may not be susceptible to the narration. They may not tolerate it. They may not have all of this power and energy to provide to someone. So it's a lot of work for them to start again with someone else. And that's typically why they're going to come back to you, specifically you, and not try with someone else. Because it's just extremely rare that they can find those same traits, those same combination of traits, qualities in someone else. And also the physical traits as well, the material qualities, just your lifestyle, your way of being, your character, everything that provides such a potent source of supply to them. But don't mistake this with connection. They're not connected to you. It's all one-sided. It's a transaction where you just provide everything to them. But they do not provide anything to you because they have no self. And that's just most people in the world today. They have no self. And what else is most people in the world today is narcissistic. Most people in the world today are narcissistic. They have no self. They lack empathy, especially affective empathy. And so they need someone else who has that to provide to them, because they can't even provide that to themselves. They need someone else who has that innocence, that naivety, that unawareness, that it's that childlike magic that you have. It is so full of life and energy, hope, optimism. And of course, these narcissists, they're very depressed. They feel hopeless and helpless. They feel like they can never make anything better. They can never change anything. But you were so full of hope, life, energy, and optimism. Of course you were. Because that's how it worked out with them. That's how you got involved with them. If you weren't optimistic about them, if you had no hope for them, you never would have been with them. It would have ended very quickly. And they extract all of that from you. That's their supply. Pretty much what the supply is, other than attention, validation, control, a sense of superiority, security, stability, sense of safety within themselves, comfortability. Aside from that, you also provided them hope and belief. You are believing in them. You're giving them your optimism, your fuel, your energy. You're providing that to them. And they can't provide that to themselves because they operate with a false self. If they had a real true self, they wouldn't need you to supply them. They do because they don't have a real true self. The problem is when you're constantly supplying them, what happens to you? It slows you down because you're giving them your life force. You're giving them what's meant to sustain you. And then you typically over time become a more slowed down, run down version of yourself. Because you no longer have that power that fuels you, that keeps you going, that sustains you. Because they really are parasites, energy vampires. They have to suck the life out of you to keep themselves going because they can't sustain themselves because they have no true self. It's all fake. And this is most people in the world today. This is why most people are not happy in relationships. This is why most people feel like they have dealt with at least one narcissist in their life. Because so many people in this world are leeches, parasites. They operate with a false self, especially these days with TikTok, social media. They don't even know who they are. They'll just be whatever gets them attention, validation. They've sold their souls, and yeah, it's very draining. It just slows us right down because that life force that's meant to sustain us, that's meant to keep us going, that energy that's meant to keep our brains working, keep our hearts pumping, to where we have the ability to think for ourselves and to just to use our brains, make decisions, critical thinking, just all of these things that we should be able to do naturally, that narcissists can't do very well. They take that energy that we use for that to keep ourselves going, and they use that for themselves, and then it just leaves you confused about who you are, and you're just trying to hold on to anything because you lack the power and energy then to sustain yourself, to keep yourself going. And it's like they say, a desperate man will clutch at a straw. So then you're clutching onto anything, just grabbing anything to stay afloat because you can't be you. As long as you're being you, as long as you're being authentic, they're stealing that energy, that life force from you to sustain their false self because they have no true self. And this is how it ends up pulling your personality inside out. This is how by the end of it, you don't even know who you are anymore. This is how narcissistic abuse raises you at a core level. Because anytime that you're you start to figure it out. You start to realize you're going to feel drained. It's going to drain the life out of you. You have to become something else because all they do is just steal from you. They copy you, mimic you, mock, ridicule you. They rob you. They devalue you. They spread gossip and rumors about you. It's just all of these attacks, all of this degradation on you, while simultaneously they're stealing from you and trying to become you. So you start to get the picture pretty early on that you cannot be you. Because as long as you're you, as long as you're grounded in your power and energy, they are going to take that from you. They're going to use it to sustain their false self. But unfortunately, in your attempt to hold on to your energy and your identity, you had to change yourself. And you become less and less like yourself because of that. But it's not really, it is you, yeah, you're making the changes. And that's what makes it real. That's what it genuinely changes you because you're making the changes on yourself. Because they're kind of forcing you to do that. It's like the only way that you can survive. So yeah, it's a horrible experience for you, but for them, it's very powerful to have that source of supply that provides them with validation, attention, a sense of control, to where normally they would feel insecure, inadequate, invalidated, insignificant, irrelevant. So yeah, you provide that life force to them. And this is always a red flag with anyone, is why do they need that from you? Why do they have to have that complete control over you in that way? And at the same time, it's all focused on their ego, validation. That's what tells you that there's no one home. There's no one in there. They died a long time ago. That's why they need that very specific resource from you. That's why they need it from you in that way. Because a normal person, I mean, I say normal, but very few people in the world are normal these days. But let's just say a normal person who has their own life force, their own energy. I mean, just see that from your own perspective. How would that make you feel to have that level of control over someone? Are you using them to feed your ego? You're like treating them like a puppet for your own validation, for a sense of control, to where you're crossing their boundaries. There's no separation. They're just an extension of you. It just feels very uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good at all. And of course, many of us will know that because we may have met people who maybe didn't have strong boundaries, and you could have pushed boundaries a little bit. You could have pushed their limits. You could have taken them over a bit if you wanted to. But it's like you just recognize it yourself, where it's like, no, we have to draw the line here. We have to set this boundary. I have to set this boundary for you because it must be making you feel uncomfortable. So what happened there? Okay, that still off. I'm not sure what's going on. Okay, sorry about that. Sometimes the microphone just cuts off kind of without warning. I think I have to charge it every time that I use it. But yeah, this is how it goes because they've sold their souls. There's no authentic self inside of them. And this is why you get around them and then gradually you don't even know who you are anymore. It depletes you. It takes yourself from you. Just think about it. Why would someone need yourself, your self-awareness, your sense of self, if they have that of their own already? They wouldn't. They wouldn't need that from you. But they do because they haven't got that of their own. That's where they have to derive it from you, and that is their supply. There's a lot of people like this in the world today. I mean, just look on social media, dating apps. There's so many people on there who they want so much more from you than what they can even reciprocate back to you. They want yourself. They want there to be no limits and for you to just give more and more of yourself without them reciprocating anything back. Because who they really are died a long time ago. They don't exist anymore. The lights are on, but nobody's home. And That's where they need that from you. That's where they need extra input. They need a lot more from you than what they're giving to you. Because already they don't have anything. They have a void. There's just nothing inside of them. So they've got to get that from you for you to fill them up. But they can't be giving anything to you because they don't have anything to give. They have to get it from you first. They have to manipulate you, entice you, lure you in some sort of way to where you're giving your energy and attention to them. And then initially in the love bombing, they can give a little bit back to you. And you think that you're getting something, but it's actually just an illusion. They're just giving you a fraction of what you're giving to them. They're just giving it back to you. And it lures you in. They feed you into it more and more to where you end up giving more and more of yourself. And then you're like, well, hold on, where did this person go then? If they were giving something to me in the beginning, why aren't they giving anything now? Especially since they want more and more from me now, why can't they give anything back? And it's because they just have a void inside of them that can never be filled. And then by that point, whatever you're giving to them, they're giving it to someone else. They're using it to attract a new source of supply. So that's why they can't keep up the love bombing phase. Because really what they want is for someone to just give them everything without them having to give anything back in return. And this is why the longer you're around them, the more you just experience so much confusion. You don't even know who you are anymore. You lose touch with yourself. You lose self-awareness, sense of self. You become self-love deficient because you're no longer loving yourself. You no longer have any love to give to yourself. You're just propping them up all the time. You're just staying in their false self that isn't even real. And that's why it really has no return. There's nothing coming back to you because you're supporting something that doesn't even exist. That isn't even real. But then afterwards, when you come back within, you give that attention back to yourself, you start to feel good again because you do have something that is real. And no matter how much they deplete you, you always have that. You always have just your soul because you're not corrupt like they are. You still have that sense of innocence, even if they have erased your identity. Even if they have turned your personality inside out, you still have that sense of innocence like a child. You're still very curious about the world. So you're able to redevelop a new sense of self, a new identity. You're able to do that because you still have that childlike innocence about you. And that's something they can never take away. They can never destroy that in you. Maybe we can do that to ourselves, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know because I feel like myself, I'm just not able to go down that path. I'm not able to sell my soul. I'm not able to just, take my own heart and my moral compass away. I just not feel anything for anyone. But of course, I think we've all had opportunities where we could have taken advantage of someone if we wanted to. We could have exploited them. But as empaths, we have something inside of us that just stops us. That we just can't do that. And that's really what differs us from the narcissist. It's like if we hurt someone, if we feel like we're hurting someone, it hurts us too. And of course, it hurts the narcissist too when they hurt someone. It's just they're not really consciously aware of it. But it is hurting them as well. Not so much in terms of guilt or remorse, but more shame. They are shame-based people. They're just doing everything they can to avoid reflecting on their shame. I've got this little cat sitting next to me. It's nice to see the cats here. But yeah, How do they feel? They feel inadequate. They feel insecure. They feel like they've lost control. When you part ways, whether they reject you or you reject them, typically they only reject you because they fear that you're going to reject them, or that you may threaten to expose them. And that's typically the only reason why they reject you. Well, it could be that they've completely used you up. Now, that can happen sometimes as well. If you're just completely used up, you're just, you're depressed, you've lost everything, you've got no more energy to give to them, you're just stone cold, you're just lifeless, you just become like a zombie yourself, then they may just discard you, because then you're no longer giving them supply anymore. Of course, they can't do anything about that. They can't bring you back to life. They can't give you the energy that you need. So they've got to go off and get that from someone else. And then if you recharge, if you replenish yourself, then they may come back again. But yeah, it's not about connection. It's not really a bond with them. It's just a one-sided transaction. Of course, it's very different for us because we believed in the false character. We fell for them. And of course, you know, many narcissists, they are very charismatic, charming, seductive, attractive, and it pulls us in. It can really pull on your heartstrings sometimes, and you feel like you've developed this bond, this connection with them that you're never going to have with anyone else, as though no one else is ever going to make you feel that way ever again. And that can make it very difficult to move on. And it creates this addiction, and even when you part ways, it's like you just want them back. You just want to have those feelings again because you just feel so depleted, depressed. You may feel a sense of inadequacy yourself. You may feel like you're missing something. That's how it feels when they, you know, when they leave you, or even when you have to leave them. I appreciate all of the compliments in the live chat. Quinton C says, love the way you talk. Aaron Michaels says, Chris, I have to say you're looking good in these glasses as well. Glad to hear it. But you know, it's not all about the superficial. But I'm hoping it's not, I mean, you know, I'm going to make sure that this message is getting across. And for us with narcissists, a lot of it is about the superficial because, you know, that's what they make it about. That's all that they've got to give. They haven't got anything else. You know, what else do you get from a narcissist other than superficial? Other than what's on the surface? They don't have anything deeper. That's all that they've got. And yet it can seem so real, so genuine. They're so charming, so charismatic. Even psychopaths, they're just so seductive, so charming that it just pulls you in. And it's like you just can't get enough of it. And especially when they change, when they start devaluing you, when they turn against you, it's like you just want that back. You want that charm inside of them again. It's like you remember the times when they used to smile and used to laugh and have fun together. And it just isn't that way anymore. And you wish that sweet, kind, loving character would come back. Because it was like everything you ever wanted. It was everything you could have ever hoped that they would be. And it's what they displayed to you in the beginning. But just everything, you know, the way they took care of themselves, they really made an effort for you. But just so kind, so pleasant to be around, so charming. And They just made it look like you were such a good, sweet couple together. Proved your image. No idea what happened there. I do have data on my phone, but somehow just cut off for a few seconds. It does sometimes, especially when it goes over 100 live viewers. I'm not sure what it is. I mean, I do believe that, you know, there may be things going on with the network and on YouTube. They may be trying to suppress this content from going out there because it is helping a lot of people. But yeah, you know, it's true. You know, that's what we fell for. It's just that kind, loving character. And I think it resonates, you know, it does resonate with a lot of people. And I think it resonates, you know, it does resonate with a lot of people. And, you know, that's what we want to come back. We want to see that side of them again. And we believe that it's real, and we have this cognitive dissonance. And, you know, that's why we don't feel good when we part ways, because we're still thinking that that side of them is real. And it's very difficult for us to understand that just because they displayed that to us, it's not really them. Now that could be the most difficult part about it. I mean, it is probably the most difficult part of all, is that cognitive dissonance. But for some of you, I mean, it may be something that, I mean, if you haven't seen many of my other videos, it may be something you've never thought of before. It may be something that, you know, it's just hit you now that, yeah, a big part of it is that false character that they displayed at the beginning. That wasn't actually real, and that cognitive dissonance. That's what keeps you stuck. That's what trauma bonds you to them. It's just the way that they just seem so lively, so happy, so fun initially. And they made you believe that everything was just going to be perfect together. And it was just everything. It was just like the image that they presented to you and that you could present together. It just looked good. And like everyone was happy for you. It was this perfect union. It just seemed so ideal. Like everything was together. Everything just felt so safe, so secure. Like there weren't going to be any hiccups. And then you just want to get back to that. You want to get back to that stability. Because as relatively healthy people, that's what we want. We like stability, we like peace. But that's just it. What they presented to you was not real. The real them is very unstable. They're very insecure, and they use you as a source of supply. And it's one-sided. It's not about creating a sense of stability and peace together. It just goes one way for them. Sentinel87 says, it does seem like YouTube doesn't like recommended videos about narc abuse anymore. Yeah, I mean, there used to be a time when, you know, pretty much any video I put out would get tens of thousands of views, 100,000 views. Now it's very difficult to get even 1,000 views. Even if I have a really good title, thumbnail, better than anything that I've had any time before. That it just barely recommends it to anyone. And I know that if YouTube did recommend my content, I would get a lot more views and subscribers. It's just because it doesn't. But yeah, I'm going to keep putting out this information because, you know, I know there are a lot of people who need to see it. As occasionally I do manage to get a few thousand views on a video. So I'm going to keep trying different titles and just see what works. I mean, I'm hoping that at some point in the future it will improve a lot more, because there is definitely a demand for this content. You know, without a doubt. I mean, mental illnesses, narcissism, this is all on the rise. It's a dramatic increase over the last few years since I first started making videos. It hasn't improved at all. So there's definitely a demand for this content. It's just, it seems that they're suppressing it. They don't want people to see these videos. And it's really not helping anyone. I mean, no one actually wins from any of this. There are no winners, there's only losers. I mean, yes, you know, we can pick ourselves back up. We can heal, we can move on. But nobody wins from abuse or narcissism. Nothing good actually comes out of it. It just destroys everyone. I mean, the only people who win really is the elites, the people who run this world. And even then, you know, many of them are very sick. They're mentally ill themselves. Many of them are narcissists, and they just want power and control. So there are actually no winners at all from this. But at the same time, they seem to be suppressing it. Even though in many ways they are just suppressing themselves, they're just harming themselves. Annabeth Boyd says, was that a gunshot? No, that's just a door slam. If you're new to my live videos, the door slams are very common in my videos. It happens all the time. Typically when I'm in my room, I mean, I must hear about 100, maybe a couple of 100 door slams a day. I hear also maybe a few hundred car horns. Anywhere between 10 and maybe 50 sirens a day as well. But somehow I still manage to maintain my sanity. So, you know, that's one thing I'm happy about, proud of that. And I just keep doing this for you, you know, to bring you this information. Just to keep you all safe out there, because there's so many people like this in the world today. It's just so common. Like Dr. Ramadi said, I mean, 1 in 6 people are narcissists. Maybe 1 in 5 or more in cities. Maybe 1 in 4. And then there's all of the other mental illnesses as well. And then there's just toxic people. I did a video on this recently. Why does it seem like narcissists are everywhere? And I found from my research that actually it's like 140% of the population have personality disorder traits or are toxic. So that pretty much means it's 100% of the population who have personality disorder traits or are toxic to some degree, which means that they're comorbid with multiple personality disorders. And yeah, that also means that even us as victims, we have traits from multiple personality disorders ourselves. And of course we would, because we've been involved with narcissists, or we've come from a narcissistic childhood family dynamic. So of course this does affect us as well. I mean, none of us are going to be completely immune, completely perfect. So it's affecting all of us. However, of course, we're likely to be less affected because we're aware of it. And we're actually trying to heal. We're trying to do the inner work. We're seeking support from this. I mean, we're in these communities. We watch these videos. But unfortunately, I'm sure I can speak for all of us when I say that we are being dragged down by these people. They come around us. They're attracted to us. They're drawn to us, to our light. And they just pull us down with them. They try to make us more and more like them. So yeah, this is everywhere in the world today, and there's no single person who is exempt. Doesn't matter who they are. And before any of you say that it could be younger people, children, actually the children these days are worse than anyone. Especially those who are teens, early 20s. They're more depressed, more anxious, more stressed than anyone else. And suicide rates are very high for the young these days, for the youth. Even children who are just 3 to 5 years old are already suffering from mental illness. There is no purity, there is no innocence these days. Not completely. Everyone is affected by this, and it's not showing any signs of slowing down. Actually, over the last few years, it's showing signs of a dramatic increase, more than ever before. And I do recall, I think it was maybe, I don't know if this was maybe 2-3 years ago, Professor Sam Vaknin, he said, yes, we're already living in narcissistic societies, and now we are gradually moving towards psychopathic societies and Machiavellianism. So we are headed in that direction if we're not there already. And yeah, that's just the way that it's going. I mean, just look at the world today. I mean, there's all of these wars. Potentially we're moving out towards World War III. There's all of these school shootings everywhere. I mean, anxiety and depression are the two most common mental illnesses in the world. Suicide rates, divorce rates, they're all at an all-time high. And it's just continuing in that direction. It's just going to get worse. Especially now that this content, this information is being suppressed. How are we meant to make it any better? Because you really think schools, governments, you think they're going to help anyone? They don't care. There's not going to be a budget. They're not going to invest any money into our mental health. There's not going to be any support for that. They're not going to teach about mental health or psychology or narcissism in schools. They're never going to do that. Because all they care about is money, power, and control. That's not going to make them more money. It's not going to make them more powerful. Because they're a part of the problem as well. And that's why people like us, people like me, I mean, I'm really all you've got. Or other YouTubers who preach about the same stuff. We're the only ones who are still out here doing this. And this is why I'm so compelled every day to give you this message. To give you the raw truth and nothing but the truth. Because very few people in the world are doing this today. Most people in the world today are liars, manipulators, they're dishonest, deceptive. They're self-centered, they only care about their own self-interest. Now that's why it's so important that together we must support these communities. Whether it's my YouTube channel or someone else's as well. We need to make sure that these communities grow, flourish, thrive. Because without this, what have we got? What do we do? I know myself, I mean, just thinking from my own experience, who knows where I'd be? Without these communities, I don't even know. I was suicidal back in 2017 until I found these communities. It pulled me out of depression. And it supported me, it provided me with an income. I didn't even know if I'd still be alive if it wasn't for these communities. And I know it saved us from depression, maybe suicide as well. Or from just completely ruining our lives. So yeah, it's so important that we support these communities. It's very important that we do that. And that's why when you watch these videos, whether it's on my channel or someone else's, always give it a thumbs up. As long as it speaks the truth, as long as it's supportive, helpful, informative, give it a thumbs up, comment on it. And actually, speaking of comments, let me know in the comment section down below. Tell me, how have these videos helped you? What have these videos done for you? What difference have they made for you in your life? I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to know about your personal experience. Because honestly, it helps me, it motivates me every day to keep going. Because I put in hours of work every day on these videos for you. So you encourage me as well, you support me. But just let me know, how am I helping you by making these videos? Let me know what difference I've made in your life. Because that's what I'm about, is just making a positive difference in the world. I want everyone to be healthier, happier, rather than just being under control of a toxic predator. That's what I want for you, is to grow, heal, move on, find peace, happiness. But there's so many people out here who do not want that for you. Honestly, they don't even care. So many people, it's not even just that they don't want you to move on or be happy. They don't want you to grow. There's so many people who just don't even care about you. As many of you may know, they just don't even care what happens to us. They don't care if we stay stuck for the rest of our lives. It doesn't even cross their minds. All people care about is just validation, control, money, power. I myself, I'm still making these videos, even though I didn't even make a fraction of what I used to make from them. And I was still making the videos even over Christmas, even though I was in the process of changing my AdSense. I didn't make any money for over 6 weeks. It made me no money at all. I still kept it going, just as I did at the very beginning. The first 5 months before I had any ad revenue, before I got monetized. And before I even knew if I was going to get monetized, because the first time, they didn't even approve my monetization. The first time back in, it's about January or February 2019, they actually didn't even approve me. And I had to apply again. But yeah, I mean, of course, money, income, it's an incentive for me to keep going. I mean, it supports me. It provides food for me and for Nala. Helps me to travel and to continue making the videos. Of course, the money I receive, I then put it back in. I invest it back into the channel. But more than anything, it's really knowing that I'm making a difference, that I'm helping you. That's what's most important for me. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below. How have my videos helped you? Comment down below right now. How have I supported you with this content? I will be reading your comments in the morning. It's nighttime here now, 8:30 p.m. So within about 12 hours, I will be scrolling through all of your comments. I'm hoping to see many of your responses. And I will try to respond to as many of them as I can as well. Give it a thumbs up. All the balls coming out now. If you're new here, subscribe, click all notifications so that you will be notified when I go live again. Donations are greatly appreciated, no matter how small. You can donate to my PayPal. It's paypal.me/Narc Survivor. If you would like guidance or support on your healing journey, you can book a one-on-one coaching session with me. Just go to my website. It's narcsurvivor.co.uk. I'm also available on Instagram. Follow me. It is Narc Survivor YouTube. Thank you all for joining me. And oh, I forgot to mention as well, it's 24th of January today. It's actually my birthday. I'm 36. First began this channel when I was just 29. So I've been doing this now for nearly 7 years in August. Now I'm 36, still going. 4,500 videos. So again, thank you all for joining this video on my birthday, the 36th today. And yeah, I look forward to speaking with you in another video very soon.